It's the Thanksgiving edition of the Coach's Corner here on RFM, and joined now by Fitchburg High School head coach Greg Graham. Coach, great to have you along with us. It's one of the great times of the year is to get an opportunity to talk about Thanksgiving and this fantastic tradition that Leominster and Fitchburg are so fortunate to be able to participate in each and every season. And of course, this is the time of year where it's now officially okay to talk about the Thanksgiving Day game, because it goes from being taboo to being okay to spend the next week talking about the Thanksgiving Day Classic. And it's great to get a chance to talk to you once again.
Absolutely. Hey, Todd, good morning. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to doing this interview every year. Kind of just gets the ball rolling for Thanksgiving, kind of puts the excitement in the air. You start to feel it a little bit more. So, I'm just looking forward to it. Can't wait. Can't wait.
The week is upon us. Coach, big picture here, your program's going to enter Thanksgiving at 4-6. If you were to track kind of the big difference between the Red Raider team of week one that we saw 10 weeks ago and the team that's going to take the field on Thursday, what's the biggest difference between those two teams?
I mean, the biggest difference is you come into every season, you have expectations. You have expectations for certain kids that you think they're going to come in there. They're going to be this or they're going to be that. We're going to be able to run this type of defense or this type of offense because we have these kids that are coming back, and this is their talent level, so on and so forth. So coming into the season, obviously we had high hopes, high expectations. We knew our first 4 games were going to be tough games. Obviously, open up with, arch rival Leominster, then traveling to Wachusett, Shepherd Hill, who's always tough. We, traveled to St. John's, you know what I mean? So, just opening up the season with, 4 very good programs, that every year they have really good teams. They're physical. We knew our back was going to be up against the wall, and, we were going to have to come in and play our best football early. And things didn't necessarily go our way, you know what I mean? But we've definitely grown as a team. We've definitely figured out, the core group of kids that we have that are actual football players that come every day. They're dedicated, they're committed. They try to do all the right things, you know what I mean, and make sure that they're, putting themselves in the best possible position to go out and play hard-nosed football like we try to pride ourselves on being, at Fitchburg High. So, yeah, coming into the beginning of the season, to now, we've definitely grown. We've gotten better, and kids are just, they're getting after it. They've bought in. You know what I mean? We had a lot of distractions early, with a couple different things, going on. You know what I mean? On top of playing a tough schedule. So, we've been fortunate to get through, and we've been able to, I think, win our last 4 out of 5 games that we played. So I'm extremely proud of the way our kids have responded and the way that they've grown, and they've kind of, finally, made an identity for themselves, you know what I mean? So, and most of all, we just wanted to make sure that our seniors, ended up having, somewhat of a good, memorable season.
You mentioned, of course, that opening run, and it was a gauntlet. And the 5th team in that first 5 games was Marlboro, who had a phenomenal year this year as well. And so when you track that, opening with Leominster, then going to Wachusett, then home against Shepherd Hill, then at St. John's, and then home against Marlboro, you had a just who's who of Central Mass teams. And of course, it's one after another after another. When you think about the mindset of your team at that point, what at that time kept your team believing that they still had the ability to turn this around?
Well, first thing I'd say is it definitely starts with your coaching staff. I try to remind my staff, off season, in season, one of the most important things that we have to do as coaches is we have to make sure that we develop good, strong relationships with kids. We have to get to know the kids that we're coaching, know their background, know the different things that they're dealing with, different things that they may or may not be going through. That's one thing that we really pride ourselves on. So I think, definitely, having really good relationships with the core group of kids that we have, and a lot of the younger kids, I think that definitely allowed us to, keep kids coming every day, keep kids, working toward, having the discipline that they need, keeping kids, believing that they could do it, that they can turn around the season, um, that, hey, this is what we talked about all off season. The weight room is, hey, we're going to deal with adversity. Things are going to happen. We got a tough road coming out. How are we going to respond to this? How are we going to keep it going? The number one thing I think that got us through is, having good relationships with our kids. They trust us. They believe in us. And they know that we never give up on them, that we're going to come every day and try to, give them our best and make sure that, we give them opportunity to go out and succeed. So I think they believed in, our coaching staff and trusted us. And we were able to kind of come through adversity and kind of turn things around for our kids. So
a special Thanksgiving edition of Coach's Corner here on RFM and with our partners 95.1 FM, WLPZ and WLPZ.org and Tucka 56 Radio and Tucka56radio.com. Sitting with Fitchburg High School head coach Greg Graham and talking about the season that was. And coach, offensive production, certainly in the early part of the season for you all, was part of the problem. I mean, 3 shutouts that went against your team, Wachusett, St. John's, Marlboro. In that first 5-game stretch, you were outscored 194-25. But in the next 5 games, that's the 5 games that demonstrates the turnaround, where your drives were finishing in the end zone. You outscored your opponents in your next 5 games, 122-104. What has been the key change for you guys offensively in being able to finish drives in the back half of the season?
Well, one thing I'll say is, we had, we graduated every single kid last year on our offensive line. We're starting 2 sophomores, 2 juniors. I think we have 1 senior lineman. I think we had a couple, that kind of dropped off, got hurt, different things throughout the season. But our line was definitely able to, start figuring it out. They started to, become more aggressive. And hats off to our offensive line coach for doing a great job with those kids and pushing those kids and coming every day and getting those kids to believe in themselves. That's definitely a huge part of the turnaround. Also, just kind of figuring out, as the season went on, what we have for kids, what their strengths are, what they're able to actually do that are going to work for us, and trying to put those kids in those positions and in those scenarios throughout games where, we could, allow them to go out and be themselves and make the plays that they're capable of making. You know what I mean? So definitely, identifying, our personnel, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and trying to, evolve our offense into being conducive to the strengths of the kids that we have. And I think by doing that, we've definitely been able to turn things around and be a lot more successful, the back half of the season.
And, you point to the point of attack, and it is such an undervalued part of football. Of course, people just love to, casual fans, talk about all the skill positions, and whether it's running backs or quarterbacks or receivers, they get all of the attention. But none of that happens if you don't control the point of attack or don't have the ability to neutralize the point of attack when you're on the defensive side of the ball as well. And so I think people may have lost over the last couple of years just how good your front was on the offensive side of the football, and what graduating a whole litany of experienced linemen and needing to replace a whole litany of linemen might end up actually doing, especially in the early part of the season, which was, as we've established, a gauntlet of football teams.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes without saying, you know what I mean? Like, if you have a really good offensive front, defensive front, like, your team's going to have success. If you struggle in those areas, it's going to be tough. I don't care, what football program you are. If you have a history of winning, when you get young kids coming in and they have to go in and execute, and, a lot of the time you get sophomore and junior kids, they're playing against those kids that, are now seniors that were probably good junior players that have a lot of experience. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, people don't talk about it enough. Those kids' names never get mentioned in the newspaper for, what they do, but, they're the backbone, they're the heart and the soul. Things don't get done if those guys can't execute up front. So, that definitely for us, that was the turning point in our season. Those guys up front, just getting better and better as the season progressed, and you know, just sticking with it. You know what I mean? No matter what, sticking with it. Overall, sticking together as a team. So, but yeah, offensive line play has definitely got significant better. It's 100% has a lot to do with the turnaround this season for us.
Nobody ever puts a poster of a left guard up on their bedroom wall as a kid. But I'll tell you, if you want to learn how to play and you want to have an opportunity to play and you have the size to do it, it's an option for people to pay attention to. Coach, this season has been crazy schedule wise. I came to realize as I was preparing for our conversation, you last played at Crocker Field on October 14th. And since then, you have been the traveling road show of a football team, packing up every week and heading on the road at Neshoba, at Doherty, at Algonquin, at Tantascwa, and now you'll come to Leominster for this 142nd meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg. But it seems to me the other thing that is quite obvious is that your team has embraced being a traveling road show together. Teams can either struggle going on the road or end up really enjoying it and embracing it. Your team appears to have gone with the second category and saying, we're going on the road, we're going into enemy territory, we're going to galvanize, we're going to work together, and we're going to take out the home team.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. I mean, I honestly wouldn't rather have it any other way. At this point in the season, this is something that, I've reiterated to my coaching staff, that I've reiterated to our kids, the last 4 or 5 weeks, like, what better position to be in knowing on Thanksgiving we got to go up against one of the best teams in Central Mass. Leominster had a terrific season. Obviously, like, we struggled early on, you know what I mean? So for us being in the face of adversity every single week and having to battle, and a couple of those games we had to come back, we had to, put together a drive on the last drive and put the ball in the end zone and continue to, build confidence, you know what I mean? But honestly, I wouldn't rather have had it any other way going into what we're facing on Thanksgiving. I think we're battle tested. I think our kids, they're ready to face adversity. They're ready to face a challenge. I think that our mentality going into this one will be a lot different. I think our kids, if nothing else, we're going to come and we're going to battle, and we're going to play, tough Fitchburg football like we've always done. We've been letting our kids know, this game is not about talent. It's not about size. It's not about speed. Excuse me. It's not about strength, but it's definitely, who wants it more? And in the face of adversity, who's going to come out and who's going to be the tougher team? And, that's what, I'm going to, continue to preach to our kids going into Thursday morning, that we just have to be tougher. And, we've gotten an opportunity to become tougher over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So, like I said, I wouldn't rather have it any other way. And hopefully that will give us some momentum and, give us some fire and give us some, much needed to come into this, game on Thanksgiving and give us some type of spark to go ahead and battle these guys on Thanksgiving morning. So
Yet
we
another
look
piece of
forward to it.
evidence that coaches love routine, and even if that routine means packing up a bus and going somewhere every week, consistency is something coaches appreciate. Even if it is having to be the traveling road show. You mentioned that final drive against Tantascwa, winning on an untimed down to win the football game and cap on a drive. And to me, that just seems like such an important moment of the season for you all, kind of declaring that you are back, you have returned, you persevered through the beginning of the season, and that was kind of your final stamp saying, we're here and we are a force to be reckoned with. Take me through that drive and kind of capping it off. And of course, the emotion of winning when there was no more time left on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, man, my hat goes off, to the kids that were on the field. I think, obviously, number one, Lucas Bolak, he's been unbelievable the whole season. He's definitely, if you wanted to define a kid as being a true warrior, like that kid is a warrior. He's tough. He gives his all every single down. He always gives you a chance, to make a play. So, I think, we came up on a situation where, I think we had a fourth down. We were fourth and I don't know what it was. It was definitely 5 or more, and we were able to capitalize on that 4th down. And then, um, Luke, he's a great athlete. I mean, he throws the ball well. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's his strong suit, but on that drive, he was able to um, hit Josh Nardi, coming across the middle for a big, like 20-yard gain. And then, a play or two later, he's able to, make another good throw down the middle of the field to Harvey early, to kind of get us into the red zone or inside the 10. I mean, hats off like to those two guys who are seniors who all year long, you know what I mean? Like we've needed them, and sometimes we've come up short, but in that game, those guys stepped up. They made plays when they needed to make plays, and then at the end of the game, I mean, hats off to Luke again. I mean, he's definitely a heads up kid. I mean, we actually got in on the drive on the play before, and there was an inadvertent whistle. The ref thought we were gonna spike the ball to stop the clock. And, Luke didn't spike the ball. He went into the end zone. So we had to play that down over. But it just kind of goes with, what the last 3 games I think that we played. I mean, I think we had to put together a drive at the end of the Doherty game. We had to put together a drive at the end of the Algonquin game. And then we come into Tantascwa and we find ourselves in the same position at the end of that game. And, I'm just proud of the way that, everybody that was on the field at that time, and even the kids on the sideline, the energy. I'm just really proud of our kids and the way that they responded, and they were able to go out and, get it done and just say, hey, we're ready for Thanksgiving morning, you know what I mean? And if anybody thinks that we're not going to come and play a tough game and, try to get after these guys and give them our best shot, definitely come and watch Thanksgiving morning. You know what I mean? Because our kids are definitely, they're ready to play.
Defense will always be a hallmark of your teams. I know at the heart and soul, you are a defensive player, and you want to talk about your defense. You want them to be the strength of your football team. Talk to me about your defense's maturation process from the beginning of the year to now.
Oh man, our defense has definitely come a long way. We've kind of struggled all year trying to make sure that we have kids, you know what I mean, in the best position, to where it's conducive for them to actually go out and be successful. I think early in the season, like I said, still trying to figure out where to fit these pieces. And you kind of come in and you think, this kid's going to be able to do this, or this kid's going to be good at that. And then, sometimes that's not the case. And you find yourself, kind of trying to scramble to kind of put these pieces together. But, I'm very proud at, the way our defense they've definitely grown. We've given up a lot of big plays throughout the season. I mean, we've struggled, stopping the run a lot. I mean, our best players, goes without saying, they're our skill guys on the outside on offense and defense. So we definitely, we've struggled a little bit. But the one thing that I always say, and I'm sure a lot of coaches say this, is, hey, we bend, we don't break. And I think the end of the season, the last 4 or 5 games that we've played in, I mean, our defense has definitely bended. But at the times that they needed to, they definitely have stepped up and made some plays for us, and put offenses in situations where earlier in the season, we probably give up a big play, but we're able to get a stop on 2nd down and put teams in tough situations on 3rd down where we can get off the field and get our offense back on the field. So our defense has definitely grown, from the beginning of the season to now, where like I said, we bend, we just don't completely break. And, kids have been able to come up and make some plays at crucial points of time during these last 4 or 5 games where I can say, I'm very proud of them. I can definitely see the growth and, where we've gotten better. And, kids are kind of moving around a little bit faster, a little bit less thinking, and just kind of going out there and trying to play football. We know we got our work cut out for us Thanksgiving morning. I mean, they're a high-powered offense. They got a lot of kids, over there that can, make big plays. Their offensive line is very, very good. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. But like I said, we're gonna go into it. I think our kids are definitely tough. They face some adversity. They're battle tested. So I like the growth in my defense. We've definitely come a long way. We've definitely come a long way.
without question. With Fitchburg head coach Greg Graham here on this special edition of Coach's Corner here on RFM and 95.1 FM WLPZ, WLPZ.org, and Tucka 56 Radio. Coach, let's talk a little bit about the season that we are in. This is, I said it off the top, it's the time of year where it's okay to storytell and reminisce and discuss, the Thanksgiving rivalries and what they mean. And there was a tweet posted yesterday by Longmeadow coach Alex Rotzko out on Twitter, and I loved it. I thought it was a great point to discuss, and that is, Coach Rotzko said one of the greatest traditions in football is the Thanksgiving Day game in Massachusetts. Every team plays its own Super Bowl that day. Looking forward to seeing old friends and players next week. I felt like, Coach, that just about sums up in an era where statewide playoffs are getting a lot of attention and all of the other things that are kind of components of athletics are getting attention. That tweet, I thought, did a great job of centering all of us in what makes Massachusetts special versus just playing football everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had a chance to, play some of my high school football down in Florida. And we never played on Thanksgiving. So, you know, Thanksgiving Day football in Massachusetts, it goes without saying that it's one of the best high school football traditions that I think we have in the country. And being able to be a part of that tradition and play, as a coach and as a player, I mean, for me, it's just, it's made a huge difference in my life and the way that I view life and different things like that. It has a huge impact on the way that I, coach kids and, um, just being a part of the legacy at Fitchburg High and being a part of the Fitchburg Leominster rivalry. I mean, it just had a huge impact on my life. I'm sure it's had a huge impact on, a lot of guys' lives, you know what I mean, in our community. It's definitely someplace where guys come back. I mean, we know Leominster guys, they know us. I mean, the trash talking and the, just being a part of that football community, I mean, it's unbelievable. And yeah, it is taboo. We try not to talk about that game all season long. We kind of wait until the week before, and then it's safe because we don't want to, we don't want to ruin anything. We don't want to sabotage anything. We want to, just, let everything else happen and then be ready for that game. And it's
Right.
like I told my kids this week, and it doesn't matter what their record is. It doesn't matter what our record is, 4-6, 7-3. All of that goes out the window when you step on the field Thanksgiving morning. I mean, it doesn't get any better than playing Thanksgiving morning. It doesn't get any better than that. So
And the rivalry history bears that out. I mean, one need only consult the, table of 141 games that have been played and the records of the teams that played in those games. And the team who had the best season isn't always the one that wins the football game on Thanksgiving. And that is the, the fascinating part of this whole process. And I would say, Coach, one of the challenges you kind of bring up is trying to translate this and the importance of this game to student athletes who maybe didn't always grow up in this community and haven't grown up with, generation upon generation upon generation doing this. It's a new crop of student athletes. It's people that haven't spent as much time in this era, but if they are open-minded enough to it and open-minded to the experience, much like yourself in kind of coming from somewhere else and trying something new, they're going to find themselves in the midst of something incredibly special. How do you translate that for today's student athlete?
oh man, it's very hard to translate because if you didn't grow up here and you haven't been a part of it, I mean, until you go out there and you experience it, whether you're a player or whether you're a spectator watching the game, until you actually and I'm speaking for Fitchburg and Leominster, and I'm sure that all the other rivalry games all over the state carry that same energy. Until you experience it, there's nothing that anybody can tell you, nothing that anybody can say that's going to actually sum up what it actually really truly means and how special it is. I mean, I've had coaches that I've coached with. I have coaches on my coaching staff now that are not from this area. And, I had to tell those guys, their first year coaching in this game, like, listen, this game is different than any other game that we've played all season. It's different than any other game you've ever been a part of, whether it's youth football, high school, college. I don't care. This is different. And the way that we have to prepare and go about it, and the things that we have to do, the mentality that we have to implicate, for that week and a half or 2 weeks upon the kids, like it's just different. And it just carries a different meaning, a different weight. The significance is beyond anything you could ever measure. So it's like, until you go there and you watch a game or you play in that game, you have no idea what it actually truly means. So it's kind of hard to sum it up for somebody that hasn't been a part of it, to say the least.
I'll provide a piece of evidence for you. I think it's the casual fans who maybe don't get a chance to follow either program throughout the entire year. And now they come home for Thanksgiving and they're here. And their question is, okay, where's the game? We know it's 10 a.m. on Thursday. Is it in Leominster or is it in Fitchburg? And okay, we're going to be there. And they couldn't care less about how either team's year has gone. They just know they're going to this game, and that all they care is that their team that they were associated with, whether it was as a student or the community they grew up in, wins. And if they win, everything else doesn't matter. Find another sport, find something else like this where people could completely care less about being a champion of any kind, as long as you win one game a year. It is a bizarre but amazing part of this series.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I wouldn't rather have grown up anywhere else. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else on Thanksgiving morning, but being a part of this game. If I wasn't coaching, or I would definitely be in the stands watching, as I always did. So I mean, it's just it's just an unbelievable feeling, man, and it's even better feeling to be directly a part of it.
Without
Absolutely.
question. Let's story tell a little bit. I love doing this. Let's talk about your favorite all-time moments or experiences. What are the things when you think about Thanksgiving? What are the things that come rushing back for you?
Oh man, I was fortunate enough to play, in two Thanksgiving Day games, my junior and senior year. Obviously I had a bigger role my senior year, but my junior year, you know what I mean? That just, the energy, the amount of people that were there. My best friend James McCall, tackling Brian Mazzaferro on like the 1 or 2 yard line to save a touchdown to win the game. Like that's probably the biggest moment that I have that I can take away from being a part of Thanksgiving Day football. I mean, it was just the energy, the crowd, just the way that you felt, you know what I mean? Just the way that day felt. And, winning that game, I think it was like 44-42. We won by 2. Like I said, Mazzaferro breaks out down their sideline. He's running into the end zone, and here comes James McCall across the field, to stop him inside the 5 yard line before running into the end zone, basically to win the football game. So just being there, being that moment. I mean, I just it's undescribable, the energy. I mean, and then obviously playing them at home our senior year. It was so cold. The field was so frozen. I mean, the first half of the game, we, on Crocker Field, we were wearing, sneakers. So that's like, yeah, we came out the first half in sneakers. By halftime, it started to warm up, so the field was muddy. So at halftime, we go in, we change our sneakers, we put on cleats, we come out, and yeah, we won 38-14. So that's definitely one of the best memories that I'll have, and being able to be a part of that and tell my kids about that and tell the kids that I coach about that, and just being a part of that history. I mean, it's unbelievable. Nothing better than that. Nothing better.
And Fitchburg has always been ahead of the game on the uniform changes. It goes all the way back to the 1930s at their field, changing their complete uniforms at halftime and having an entirely second set of uniforms instead of freezing in cold mud. And from there, it's always they've got the right shoes, they've got make the right tweak or change. And every time a uniform comes in, Fitchburg wins the football game. It's always been the way the history of this game has gone. I think, Coach, when I talk about the experiences, the one that I have to try to describe and translate for people, and coaches get it every other year when they're at their home facility, because you guys can be early to your home facility. You have to take a bus ride in order to go to the road games, is watching the stadium just kind of wake up. We're there obviously awfully early, setting up equipment and what have you. And one of the years I was covering the game when I first came back to cover it on radio, we did our entire morning show from there. So we started at 6 a.m., which meant we were there at 4 a.m., setting things up to go on at 6 a.m. and to literally watch the sun come up at one of these facilities and watch slowly as things begin to percolate and people begin to come in, and whether it's they open the gates, or one or two people show up, or the water gets set up, or it's just, there's nothing like that morning as the stadium slowly builds and builds and builds to that 10 a.m. kickoff.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing like it. I mean, I love getting, whether we're home or away, I love getting there early and just kind of going out, walking the field, just kind of taking it all in when, there's virtually nobody there, and, just kind of, going through the whole process and, getting ready for, to come out in front of, all the people in our community, go out and play a football game. I mean, it's just, it's the most undescribable feeling that I think I could have, being a part of this. But yeah, I love it. I love every minute of it. I love being able to, be there and just take it all in and witness it all, and, see different kids, over the years come through and what the experience is like for them, and seeing those kids coming back to still be a part of the experience. I mean, it's all unbelievable, and I'm, so thankful that I'm able to be a part of it.
Get that opportunity to
Absolutely.
bring everyone together. The 142nd meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg, the 116th Thanksgiving Day Classic. Coach, let's turn our attention to this game. Leominster, as we said, will enter 4-3, having lost their last 2 straight. Your team will enter at 4-6, having won 4 of your last 5, including your last 3 games in a row were wins. Leominster won that 141st meeting in week 1 by a 48-6 score on September 8th. Now that's the backdrop, but ignoring the implications, playoffs and non-playoffs throughout the year, I said to my broadcast partner, Bill Thomas, during the Taunton game, I said, would you rather be Leominster coming into this football game on Thanksgiving, or would you rather be Fitchburg coming into this game on Thanksgiving? He punted on the question, but I will ask you the question this way. Is your team more dangerous having lost 3 straight and having won 3 straight, having lost week 1, than Leominster is having lost their last 2 straight?
Honestly, that's really not a question that I, that I could really answer. You know what I mean? I would definitely defer that question. But what I will say is that, the message that I'm sending out to my kids and that we're talking about every day is, 7-3 doesn't matter. 4-6 doesn't matter. Whatever happened throughout the season, none of that matters. It's all out the window. The only thing that matters now is the way that we come out 10 a.m. Thanksgiving morning at Doyle Field. The way we come out is all that matters. The opportunity that our kids have in front of them is like no other opportunity that they'll ever have the rest of their life. So that's the message I have to my kids. I wouldn't say, it doesn't matter if we, lost our last 5 and they won their last 6, or vice versa. This is Thanksgiving morning, Fitchburg against Leominster. We're going into a cage. We're going to lock that cage, and the best man's going to come out. That's the message that I have for my kids. We're going to, lock ourselves in the cage with Leominster on Thanksgiving morning, and, the best guy's going to come out. And that's what it's all about. We just got to be tougher than Leominster on Thanksgiving morning. And that's all I'm preaching to my kids. Nothing else really matters. We just got to be the tougher, more physical, get after it team Thanksgiving morning. And as long as we do that, I like our chances. I don't care about records.
At this stage, of course, in the season, you've seen them play 10 games. They've seen you play 10 games. There are no surprises anymore in that sense. So when you think about the X factor, when you're strategically preparing your team for the game, how do you prepare them when you have all of this information amassed and source, I suppose, of course, paralysis by analysis is definitely possible when you have 10 games of sample size to look at one another. But how do you strategically go and game plan for, you know, a team that's gotten to watch you play 10 times and you've watched them play 10 times as well?
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, obviously they have a lot of tape. We have a lot of tape. I mean, we've been watching them the whole season, so I mean, we have a good idea of their strengths, their weaknesses. Who are their guys. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I mean, we're putting our seniors on the field and we're telling our seniors, hey, this is your last shot. This is it. It doesn't happen anymore for you after this. And I'm sure they're telling their seniors the same thing. But hey, this is it, guys. That's what I'm telling my seniors. You get no more after this. So you can't take this moment for granted. You have to go out. You have to, take full advantage of this opportunity, and you can't take it for granted. You got to make every single snap, every single down. You got to make it count. Um, and that's my message to my kids, and hopefully, they come out and respond to that. I mean, the work's been done. The X's and O's are there. The game plan is there. I mean, we've studied them. They've studied us. Now it's about, who wants it more? Who wants it more? Who's going to be the tougher team? We're from Fitchburg. We pride ourselves on being tough. So I expect us to come out and be exactly that.
You alluded to this a little earlier, and it's something that I've heard from coaches week in and week out against, when they were game planning against Leominster, and that is, of course, neutralizing the big play, stopping Leominster's big play potential. And coaches have talked about it. Some have been successful doing it, some not as successful neutralizing the big play. When you are the coach that's on the side looking at a team who relies on a big play mentality, how do you neutralize a big play offense?
Man, I'll go back to it, Todd. I mean, to me, the best way that you can neutralize a big play offense is, get right up in their face, get after them, put pressure on them, make them uncomfortable, hit them as hard as you can, and just let them know that, hey, you're gonna be in for a dogfight. I mean, we respect those guys. They have, great players. They're going to come out and they're going to try to do what they've done all season, and we might bend, we just can't break. But the number one thing is, we just got to get after these guys. We can't let these guys come in and dictate what does and what doesn't happen. And one thing we won't do is we won't back down. So they're definitely in for a fight. Like I said, we respect them. We constantly try to reiterate to our kids, respect your opponent. That they're good. They've been working. Like, obviously they beat us 48-6 opening day of the season. They've definitely gotten better. You know what I mean? You don't get worse in 10 games. If anything, you've definitely gotten better. So we know what we're up against. You know what I mean? We know what they do. We know who their players are. You know what I mean? Now we just got to go out and, the way I think we neutralize that is, we go out and just be tougher. Be tougher, work your technique, do your job. Don't try to do anybody else's job, and, good things will happen. And, that's what I'm going to continue to preach to my kids from now until 10 a.m. and until the game is over Thursday morning is, be the tougher team and do your job. You do that, and I like our chances. So
Momentum is such an important part of this game, as it probably is in any football game, but it just seems like it takes on such a kind of bit of emphasis in a Leominster Fitchburg football game. And that is, whether it's the first score or generating the first turnover or making the first big play, how important is kind of making your stamp early in this football game than maybe it is on other days?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, making our stamp early and trying to get some momentum and trying to create a big play early. It's very important for us. It's very imperative that we go out and we kind of we have to be the ones to set the tone in this game. You definitely don't want to get behind to these guys. You don't want to give them anything. You don't want to let them get started early. You know what I mean? We know that, they have a lot of kids that can make plays offensively. Their defense has played well all year round. So, it's imperative for us that we go out and we make a statement early. I mean, I think, going back to early on in the season, some of those first 4 games, we come out, we make some big plays, we create some turnovers, and then, penalties and things like that kind of, take away from that. We've definitely gotten, a lot better as far as penalties go. So, if we can come out early and force some things to happen and, kind of, back them up into a corner, so to speak, or, make them a little bit uncomfortable, that definitely, would go in our favor without a doubt.
You mentioned, of course, the play of James McCall that you kind of keep as your little ship in a bottle from your experience playing, and it's one of those. He was probably a bigger name at the time, but on Thanksgiving morning, somebody from some team somewhere who maybe we haven't talked about all year long, or the attention hasn't focused on all year long, somebody makes a play. And whatever that may be, it's either they generate a turnover, they run a kickback, they make a hit that generates said turnover, they score, or they fall on a ball. Strange things just seem to happen. And usually it's a player that comes from well off the board, somebody that we haven't talked about all year, or you will maybe all haven't talked about, but you've seen in practice year in and year out. And so now I understand, and I said this to Coach Gates as well, I'm asking you to predict the future. And so I grant you that that is difficult. But if you were to think about, instead of a specific player, but more of a position group, what would be a place where you would need a surprise play? That maybe there are players that, haven't had a lot of attention this year, but have a real chance of making a play, a rivalry moment that could make a difference in a Fitchburg win on Thursday.
Well, what I would probably say is, like you said, it's hard to predict the future. Where I think we have to make our biggest difference would definitely be on the defensive side of the ball. And then, I'm expecting, we have a kid, Dorian Wells, who's a very good athlete, who hasn't played a whole lot of defense for us this year. Who's been really good for us on offense. This kid can definitely change the game. So, if he's in a situation and he has an opportunity, he definitely can and will go out and create a big play and maybe go out and get us a turnover or something like that. So but you never know. You can't predict it. I mean, we have a lot of kids, that their name hasn't been called a lot this year. Kids that are seniors that I'm expecting them to come out and do something. To kind of put their stamp in the legacy of Fitchburg High School football on Thanksgiving morning. So we have a number of players that I think definitely could go out and do that.
Sounds like Coach Graham's looking for a Malcolm Butler moment, getting
Absolutely.
the right time and get the right guy on the field in the right moment. Coach, I'll ask you for your final message to the team on Thursday morning when we're down on the field prior to the game, but you've got some final moments coming up here over the next handful of days. You'll have, your last, few get-togethers. You'll have your last practice together, your last moment as a team before you go out onto the field on Thursday morning. You got a pep rally in there. There's just a lot of pieces that are going to move on as you get together for those last few moments with your team prior to getting to the field Thursday morning. What do you want them concentrating on when they're away from the spotlight and they're together? What are the last things you want on their mind before they get to the field on Thursday morning?
Oh man, I mean, the last things that I hope they're thinking about, more than anything is each other. One thing that we've kind of tried to make sure we talk about or have talked about all season long is, making sure that we take care of each other, making sure that, we have each other's backs. And I think that when kids understand that they're going to be, held accountable to have each other's back and, just do your job and trust the guy next to you, I think it kind of puts things in perspective when you get out on that field that, is to go out and kind of play selfless football. And that's one thing that I've kind of, tried to, make, the pride spot, of our football team this year is, hey man, we just got to be selfish, go out, play for the guy next to you, trust that guy's going to do his job, know what his job is, you know what I mean? Hold yourself and hold each other accountable, and I think if you come out with that type of mentality, you definitely give yourself an edge. You give yourself, a mental note to where, hey, I'm not gonna let this guy down. This is my brother. You know what I mean? Defensively, we're playing all of our seniors. And hopefully they're able to go out and say, this is our last time together. You know what I mean? There's no possible way that I don't make this play and let this guy down. So, the number one thing that I want them thinking about when they get out on that field is I want to make sure that they're, definitely thinking about each other, because that's the most important thing. Nothing else is going to matter when they get down on that field. The coaches don't matter, your parents don't matter, all the people in the stands don't matter, but the guys that matter the most and are the guys that you're lining up next to play after play after play. So you got to make sure that you're thinking about each other and you're ready to give your all for your brother, for the guy next to you. So that'll be my last message is, just make sure that, you're playing for each other and you have each other's back.
The last stand for both Fitchburg and Leominster come at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning. The 142nd meeting of Fitchburg and Leominster, the 116th Thanksgiving Day Classic, is right here on RFM Audio and with our myriad of partners starting Wednesday night with Recipe for a Classic from 5 to 7 p.m. on 95.1 FM, WLPZ and WLPZ.org. From 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Recipe for the Classic can be found right here on the platforms of RFM, YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. And from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Tucka 56 Radio and Tucka56Radio.com on Live 365. Can find that edition of Recipe for a Classic. And then Thursday morning, it's encores of Recipe for a Classic from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 95.1 FM, WLPZ, and Tucka 56 Radio, all leading into our live coverage from Doyle Field. Live streaming audio is on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Live radio over the air, such an important part of Thanksgiving morning, and we know it for those of you that are on the go or in the kitchen and cannot be at a TV because you need to baste liberally. 95.1 AM, 95.1 FM. Set your radio dial today for 95.1 FM. Countdown to Kickoff is live at 9 a.m. on RFM, as well as on 95.1 FM WLPZ. And then Leominster TV joins our Countdown to Kickoff live at 9:30 a.m. on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 32, and streaming their complete broadcast at Leominster.tv under the education stream. And then it's kickoff and play-by-play all across those partners starting at 10 a.m. for the Thanksgiving Day Classic. Replays of the game will be available Saturday, 95.1 FM, WLPZ and WLPZ.org, and then the Sunday following the game on Tucka 56 Radio and Tucka56Radio.com. That's all the ways to play. Get your notepads ready and get your radios set for high school football action. We're looking forward to it. I want to once again thank Fitchburg High School head coach Greg Graham for taking some time and spending part of his morning with me today as we get people ready on this special edition of Coach's Corner. For Fitchburg head coach Greg Graham, I am Todd Robbins saying thank you so very much for joining us. We'll talk to you on Thanksgiving Thursday morning. So long, everybody.